Okay, could I just ask everyone to note that today's meeting may be recorded. The recording will be broadcast on the authority's website and may be used for training purposes by the Democratic Services Department. All attendees will be in view of the camera, and by attending you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings being used as outlined above. So I'll now hand over to the Chair, who will open the meeting officially.
Pnawn da, croeso, and welcome to the Planning and Regulatory and Licensing meeting held at 5 p.m. Wednesday, 7th of January 2026. I'll go to the agenda. First, apologies for absence.
We have none, Chair.
We have none, thank you. Second, declarations of interest. Members are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and prejudicial interest in respect of matters contained in this agenda in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government and Finance Act 1992 related to Council Tax, the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution and Members' Code of Conduct. Please note, members are reminded that they must identify the item number and subject matter that their interest relates to and signify the nature of the personal interest, and where members withdraw from a meeting as a consequence of the disclosure of a prejudicial interest, they must notify the chair when they leave. Have we got any declarations of interest?
Sure.
Anna.
Thank you. Following advice, I will need to declare an interest in item 6, land to the southwest of A470, roundabout with Reed Car West. I will be leaving the meeting during that item. Thank you.
Thank you. We go to minutes of previous meetings. Number 3, minutes of meeting Wednesday, 19th November 2025 of Licensing Committee.
Okay, if someone could move the minutes and then second them.
I move, Chair.
I second, Chair. Yeah.
And if
Number 4,
everyone could vote.
oh, sorry.
So could all those in favour please raise their hands? Okay. Thank you. Anyone not in favour of those minutes, please raise their hands. No one, and anyone wishing to abstain, please raise their hands. Okay. Those minutes are carried, Chair.
Right. We'll go to item 4. Minutes of meeting Wednesday, 19th November 2025 of Planning, Regulatory and Licensing. Can I propose it?
I propose.
Thank you, Scott.
I second.
Thank you, Clive.
Okay. So could all those in favour please raise their hands? Okay. 6. Okay. Thank you. Anyone not in favour of those minutes, please raise their hands. No one, and anyone wishing to abstain, please raise their hands. No one. Thank you. So those minutes are also moved, Chair.
Thank you. Item 5, minutes of meeting Wednesday, 10th of December 2025 of Licensing Committee. Can I have a...
I move, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you.
Second. So all those in favour, please raise their hands. 5. Okay, thank you. Anyone not in favour, please raise their hands. And anyone wishing to abstain, please raise their hand. Marvellous. Those minutes are also moved, Chair.
Thank you. Planning applications, recommendations in the Town and Country Planning Act 1990 and the Planning Compensation Act 1991. Item 6, P23/0065. Land to the southwest of A470, A4102, roundabout at Redecar West, Merthyr Tydfil. To consider a report from the Director of Neighbourhood Services, and I hand it over to the Planning Officer taking the report.
Thank you, Chair. At the Planning, Regulatory and Licence Committee meeting held on the 12th of March 2025, members did not support the officer's recommendation to refuse the application. On 21st of November 2025, the Council received confirmation from Welsh Government that the application would not be called in for consideration by the Welsh Ministers. The letter advised that consideration has been given to the concerns expressed in the calling requests, the contents of the LPA's Planning Officer's report to the Planning Committee, the Committee's decision being minded to grant planning permission, and any other relevant information. The Cabinet Secretary for Economy, Energy and Planning has concluded that while issues of conflict with national policy exist, in this case they are of a scale and complexity which she is content for the LPA to consider. The decision not to call in the application should not in any way be taken as a reflection of the planning merits of the development. Since the original report was presented to committee in March 2025, one email of support endorsing the skiing opportunity it would give to the next generation and highlighting how a similar facility in Belgium has generated tourism for that region and attracted world-class skiers to train there has been received. One email with 20 attachments raising objection to the number of grounds as detailed on page 3 of the report has also been received. It has also been brought to officers' attention that members of the committee have also received a 15-page email from the same objector directly setting out their objections to the application and asking members to have due regard to the points made in determining the application. Since the publication of this report, a further 5 letters of support have been received commenting on how the proposed snow dome would attract skiers from across South Wales, as well as inspiring young people and could be a base as an innovative apprenticeship scheme. A further email has also been received expressing disappointment at the officer recommendation to refuse the application, suggesting that town needs development more than protecting the environment. An email has also been received from the agent for the application in relation to the proposed conditions. Due consideration has been given to the comments made, and it is agreed that the first sentence of condition 24 should be amended to read prior to beneficial occupation rather than development shall not commence. No other amendments are considered necessary. Members will note that most of the conditions are those that have been requested by consultees as set out in the original report to committee included below. Others include standard time limits expected on the application of this nature. Many of the conditions require the submission of details prior to the commencement of development. This is necessary so that the location, type and detail can be agreed in advance of physical works commencing to avoid delays. If this is left until later in the process, then the outcome could be compromised and delays encountered. Given that members have resolved not to accept the officer recommendation, the application is now before committee to approve, subject to the conditions and heads of terms for a Section 106 agreement set out on pages 13 to 35 of the report. Note that the proposed amendments to the wording of condition 24. Questions on the conditions and heads of terms are invited from the committee.
Is that it? Right. We now go to speaking by local elected members that do not sit on the planning committee. Is Councillor Barry here? No. So I'll go to Councillor Brent.
Chair, yeah, just trying to get in.
Councillor Barry, we'll give you 5 minutes to make your speech. Okay?
Lovely, thanks very much. Okay, I note from the report that at 6.4.151A, page 58, it says the first priority of planning authorities is to avoid damage to biodiversity. I would disagree with that. I would say your first priority is to look after the people of the area. That is our main priority, and any law which diverts us from that is not fit for purpose. So look, in 1994, we were awarded Objective 1, Objective 2 EU funding for being one of the most deprived areas, not just in Wales, but in Europe. Currently, our life expectancy for males over 74 is the lowest in Wales, in the UK and Europe. Our GDP is roughly half of what it is throughout the rest of the UK. We use food banks. We talk of food banks on a daily basis. I saw an advert this week advertising for a food bank. This isn't progression. This is regressive policies over the last 30 years have brought this area to its knees. To pull us out of deprivation, we need positive economic solutions. We're not going to have growth in this area by taxation. We're not going to have growth in this area by bloated public service. We're going to have growth by applications of the magnitude that we are talking here today. We've tried replacement EU funding. Hundreds of millions of pounds over the last 30 years have come in. £230 million in the last 3 years. 230 million, £250 million into South Wales, £22.6 million into Merthyr. And where's that got us? We're still some of the most deprived areas in Europe. Our life expectancy is still the lowest. The GDP is still half. It doesn't work by just throwing grants at us, because grants are decided in the most part by officers. And what do officers and politicians know about growth? There's an awful lot spoken about, but they know nothing. What we require are these applications on this magnitude, because what this gives us is the opportunity to create small businesses, to give people aspiration, to give people an idea that there's a different path to choose, to create businesses to work in a supply chain, to work to Redcar West, to work supply chain, to import, to export. That's how we get out. We create growth in the local economy. And if Merthyr works, then Aberdare works, Ponty works, Ebervale works, and then all of a sudden we have a regionally successful area. But it will be because of investment on this level by these type of businesses. There's a report by the Industrial Communities Alliance for Wales, of which I was a member of which for the past 8 years. And if I can, Chair, the Industrial Alliance is an all-party association representing local authorities through industrial areas in England, Wales and Scotland. And I'll just read you part of their report, Next Steps for the Valleys, a very well received report from 2025 that went throughout the media and also went to Westminster, was presented to MPs there. And the closing statement in that says, Valley residents need more jobs and better jobs closer to home. So there's a question of balance. The most direct way to open up opportunities and to improve their life chances is to generate jobs and deliver services nearer where they live, in the valleys themselves. And this is exactly what we have here. We have an opportunity to change the whole dynamic, the whole socio-economic dynamic of Merthyr here. And there's 3 questions of who, where and when. Who are the people bringing this application today? Where? It's Redcar West. And when? It's right now. It's right now. We have the opportunity here, the committee has the opportunity here to change the socio-economic direction of this town. Not through grants, not through taxation, but through job creation, creating a world-class facility which affects our educational system, our training facilities. It gives people aspiration and jobs.
You've got 30 seconds.
Thank you, Chair. This is the opportunity we've been waiting for. And it's a responsibility for everybody in the committee and everybody in this town to get behind this application and promote it to the level it needs to be promoted to change the direction of this town, take us out to deprivation and less dependent on the way it's been over the last 30 years. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. I call on Councillor Brent Carter to make a statement.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you, Chair. And thank you for affording me the opportunity to speak here this evening. I don't say this lightly, but we're here tonight on what promises to be another significant milestone in our town's proud history, and indeed deciding on what will have an enormous impact, not just on Merthyr Tydfil's future, but Wales and the whole of the UK and Europe. We, the people of Merthyr Tydfil, are never afraid of change. We embrace it and certainly don't shy away from making monumental decisions. I don't think any of us use the word transformative that often, but let's spend a moment on things that have changed our town over the last 15 years or so, and a lot of that is down to EU and grant funded money. The leisure village, the retail park, together with the new housing developments across the county borough. These have brought significant investment, attracting people to live and indeed spend money and contribute to our economy right here in Merthyr Tydfil. Then we have Bike Park Wales, an overwhelming success story where they entertain people from across the UK and Europe, putting Merthyr Tydfil proudly on the map once again. Chair, I talk about these other projects just to add some context and magnitude to Ready Car West. I think everyone in Merthyr Tydfil is acutely aware of my thoughts and feelings. I have talked about it enough over the last few months. This project is without doubt groundbreaking and a complete game changer for Merthyr Tydfil. It complements the offerings of Bike Park Wales, Zip World and Rock UK Climbing Centre. Where else could you go to find all these activities so close together? I said earlier about putting Merthyr Tydfil on the map. I don't think there would be a map big enough to accommodate our town when hopefully this project gets the green light tonight from members. The amount of support I see across the spectrum for Ready Car West is, let's say, overwhelming. We only have to look at social media to see the clamour and demand for this. I, for one, am thrilled about the prospect. The preparation, construction and build phase will create well-paid jobs, which will in turn lead on to more jobs when the site is open and fully functionable. For me, I always look for value and added benefits, and this project will also massively support and boost our economy in Merthyr Tydfil and offer multiple opportunities for our future generations. And that, I think, is the most important thing. As I said, a game changer. I'll finish where I started. This is an ideal opportunity to confirm Merthyr Tydfil as a world-class destination of choice. We are so close to making this become a reality. We cannot throw this opportunity away. Merthyr Tydfil needs Ready Car West. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Carter. Councillor Gareth Lewis, do you want to make a statement?
Thank you, Chair. I don't particularly need to make a statement at this stage, except to state that I wholeheartedly spoke positively about the application when it originally came to the Planning Committee back in March of last year, and I urge all committee members of the Planning Committee to support the approval of this application this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I go to the planning officers. Any closing comments? No? Okay. We go on to a question. Sorry? Julia?
I'd like to speak, if that's possible, please. I was told I could.
Okay. Okay, Julia, yes.
It's not going to take that long. I strongly recommend we approve the planning application tonight. We are fortunate Merthyr was selected for this scale of development. Merthyr desperately needs the employment, the visitors, increasing the footfall, ensuring business that we already have prosper and more develop. We've been bypassed long enough. We have Bike Park Wales, which people scoffed at when it was announced, but it's brought so much to Merthyr. We have a vast number of green spaces and conservation areas. Our priority now should focus on job prospects, new developments, attracting and retaining younger people, preventing further decline, ensuring a more vibrant community. We need to regrow and flourish. Ready Car West will bring visitors. Merthyr has an amazing history to tell. We have the opportunity to have something extra special on our doorstep. We must grab this opportunity with both hands. Tonight we have the option to make it a reality. I urge the Planning Committee to approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Jenkins. I'll go on to questions from the committee members. Councillor Clive Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I just want the planning officer to state again on number 24. You said there was an alteration there. I didn't quite catch that. Could you reiterate that again, please?
Certainly that for you. Just bear with me a sec to get the script back up. With regard to condition 24, we agree that the wording of the condition, rather than being should be prior to beneficial occupation, rather than development shall not commence until. Basically, it switches the timing of the condition so as to allow it to proceed in a more natural manner. Then.
Okay, thanks for that. So I've got a second question for you. It says on page 13, in the paragraph that's above the start of the conditions, and he refers then to, I think it's 53 conditions, and includes heads of terms for a section 106 agreement. How long would it take for, in your estimation, for that agreement to be resolved?
I'll come in there, Chair, if that's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problems. Work would start on drafting the Section 106 agreement immediately, and whilst you can't sort of be certain as to how long these things take, I would imagine it would be in the interest of everyone involved to get the agreement prepared and signed as soon as possible.
So, in your opinion, Mr. Watkins, it's not going to take an inordinate length of time for that agreement to be agreed on all sides. I think the last thing anybody wants was something like this, which is important, to take, many, many months.
Yeah, it shouldn't take a significant period of time. I think in the correspondence that we received from the applicant, where there were some issues raised with the conditions, there weren't any issues raised in terms of the heads of terms of the 106 agreement, so there would appear to be agreement in terms of what will be included in the 106, so it's just a matter of finalising the wording and getting it all drafted up then.
Okay, thanks. I got a third question, and it's on page 71, and it refers there, and I'll read it out. So it's the bottom paragraph on page 71. The applicants refer to mitigation and compensation measures in a broad sense, but the council's ecologist considers that the detail is insufficient and without full and detailed information regarding mitigation, compensation and enhancement measures. The ultimate outcomes regarding protected habitats and species are unknown. Further, the council's ecologist takes the view that the information provided in respect of the principle of off-site compensation does not provide confidence of its effectiveness given the current state of on-site habitats. So, given that this report, it was in the report, I think, March of last year, has anything changed as far as the council's ecologist is concerned?
No, there's been no change in terms of the officer position there, but in terms of how things would work moving forward, there would be scope to bottom out those issues as part of the work on the Section 106 agreement and discharging then the conditions attached to the permission.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Salmon.
Thank you, Chair. Gareth, a quick one on what Clive asked, and this was referenced in the email that was sent to members of the committee on Monday. There were a number of conditions mentioned in it. Did you go through those conditions with the applicant, and were they happy to leave all the others, or?
We did not go through those issues with the applicant, and I can't advise one way or the other whether they're happy to leave it or not.
Okay.
Sorry. Do we just come in and just expand on that a little? Like I said, we did obviously receive the comments from the applicant on the condition, suggesting some changes. Some changes were made to some of the conditions, and I think there is scope through Section 73 applications to vary conditions. If we do want to amend the wordings of them at a later date, that can be done, and that will be generally done under delegated authority to officers, so there wouldn't be any undue delays then in the process moving forward.
Okay, I think, to be honest, as Councillor Clive Jones has mentioned, the big thing here is we don't want any delays. To be honest, that's the big thing, and I think it's been mentioned in the email on Monday, the fact that it seems there's more onerous obligations have been asked for, above and beyond what NRW suggested. I'm just wondering why we've done that, and is that normal?
Yeah, in terms of the sort of the number of different ecological conditions and issues that need to be complied with, whilst obviously NRW are a statutory consultee, and we would take their advice very closely, our council as ecologist also has a view on things, and we need to sort of make sure that everything is covered off given the ecological significance of the site.
Okay, great. Last one for me then, to be honest. At the end of the email, and I find this intrigued by the request, to be honest, and it was the request that elected members, if this is passed tonight, that elected members are involved in the process going forward, so that delays are lessened, they're kept informed, because we've seen over the last few days, and we saw it last year as well, there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of untruths, and I'm just thinking that if a couple of elected members, maybe cross-party, or maybe the chair and vice chair of planning, if they'd be willing, could be involved in a kind of a subcommittee that would deal directly with the applicants and with the planning officers, to be able to allay the fears of residents if things are starting to slow down, and just kind of to make sure things go smoothly, if that sounds correct. If that sounds
yeah, right. I think whilst we may not sort of want to get bogged down with sort of councillors, officers and such in sort of drafting the wording of any changes to any conditions moving forward, I think, yeah, maybe a more collaborative approach to communications on the development, if it does get approved and move forward, I think that would be something we could consider, yeah.
So would we have to vote on that as well tonight, make an amendment to make sure that elected members are part of the process and are involved in it?
We as officers, we don't believe that's necessary in terms of sort of redrafting conditions. That can be done through sort of standard Section 73 planning application. When those come in, there would be a consultation process on those anyway, so we could get stakeholders involved at that point then.
Okay, thank you, Craig. Thank you, Gareth. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Have we got any other members of, sorry,
Sorry, I know you're looking at the screen and looking at us at the same time. 53 conditions here, which seems a hell of a lot to me. In your answer, Craig, to Councillor Salmon, I'm just asking for confirmation. Did you say that, apart from one or two others, that you already agreed to change the wording of some of those already?
It was just well, we had looked at sort of merging conditions to rationalise the numbers overall in between us getting the notification back from Welsh Government and presenting the application to committee. We had made some changes, like for instance, the applicant requested that the period of time to submit the reserve matters scheme and then commence the development moved from 3 and 5 years to 5 and 7, just to give, because of the size of the development, it then gives sort of just that extra time, bit of comfort to make sure that everything is sorted. So there were some changes made, but it is only that one extra amendment that Gareth mentioned at the start of the report to the conditions that are included in the report today.
So the 53 conditions, for me, it seems, I know it's a big scheme, but it seems a heck of a lot. You've got to go through these, every one of these, with the developers. I mean, apart from the discussion with the Section 106 agreement, how long do you estimate it would take to reach agreement with the developers on those 53 conditions?
I wouldn't be able to confirm an exact timescale, but I would imagine the developer has been gearing up to sort of prepare the work that's needed to submit the discharge those conditions. So I'd imagine we'd be dealing with some of those applications sooner rather than later.
Right. So we're talking about months rather than years.
I would think, yeah, it would be realistic to assume that we'd have some of the applications to discharge the conditions within months. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. I noticed that Mr. Walden has got his hand raised. Can I ask Geraint, are we allowed to take any comments from this gentleman?
No, the developer's right to speak was at the March committee. There's no facility for the developer to address committee at this stage.
Okay, thank you. I am sorry for that, sir, but rules being rules.
Chair, can I just ask something?
Yes.
Geraint, if it was a point of for clarification, maybe something has been said wrong, would
I think the planning officer has actually given you the answer that's required, Declan. He's actually told you that in all likelihood, everything should be dealt with within a few months.
I'm just wondering that if something had been said wrong, if you stop interrupting a second, Geraint, if something has been said wrong tonight, and he's given a point of clarification, then that would stop any action or anything down the line if something had been mentioned that wasn't true. Or I don't know.
No, I mean, Craig has given you the answer from the planning officer's perspective. He's told you what the planning officer's or the planning department's answer to it is. Craig has given you the clarification that you require in order to move forward to make the decision.
Okay. There's one point of clarification from me then, from what I asked earlier, in regards to having that kind of subcommittee with some members on it. That will come back as part of the, when it goes out for consultation again, that could be a recommendation. Was that what you said, Craig?
Sorry, no, I mean, if the applicant submits an application to vary the wording of a condition, there would be the usual publicity exercises that would be on any sort of planning application. So at that point, then councillors could get involved. I think what I was suggesting, maybe we could look at maybe more effectively communicating the process wider. I think that's where there have been sort of issues this week.
Okay. I think you think okay. What
it is, it's maybe a comment. This is, and I think I mentioned it earlier. As I said, there's been a lot of scaremongering and a lot of untruths, and officers have been pulled into it. There's been comments made about councillors, and it's just not fair. People are putting 2 and 2 together, coming up with 10, and I think we just need to be able to come out and say and explain things as they are. We don't need this going forward, to be honest. This should be a positive event tonight, and we don't need it every month. That there's hold-ups and maybe the truth is not coming out. That's just my point of view. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Declan. I think you've preempted the next part of it. If there's no further questions from members of the committee? No. Okay. Taking from what Declan was saying, have we got any comments from committee members?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think my comments on this application are pretty well known, particularly from the March meeting. I'm pleased to see this before us. I mean, it's happened quite quickly since the Welsh Government notified us on the 21st of November. I think we were all pretty frustrated from the meeting in March that it took until November before we were notified by the Welsh Government, but we have been, and it's in our hands. This is a huge scheme that the application will change the economy of the Merthyr Tydfil County Borough area and the surrounding valleys. There is no way, Chair, that I would be voting against this. If this is approved tonight, this site comprises a snow centre, a water park, an indoor activity centre, an outdoor activity centre, hotel accommodation up to 418 bedrooms, a woodland lodge accommodation up to 30 units, and there are some in the region of 830 parking spaces there, together with the fact one of the main issues here is employment. This site, if approved, there will be over 800 permanent jobs, as I understand it, which we need very badly and quickly in this area. I fully support this application. I sincerely hope that we get through these 53 conditions, including the Section 106 agreement, as soon as possible, and that's resolved on both sides with the council officers and the developers. And I look forward to all that being completed, and hopefully in a matter of months we can get on with this, and the construction and the work beforehand can start as early as possible. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Jones. Before I go any further, can I ask Richard to turn his camera off, please? Gentlemen, thank you very much. Thank you. Have we got any more comments?
What do Ernie first?
Ernie.
Thank you, Chair. Last March, 10 councillors decided not to refuse Redecar West. Subsequently, the Cabinet Secretary for Economy, Energy and Planning stated the application will not be recalled in the determination by the Welsh Ministers. I believe it was the support of 10 councillors with their speeches who made the decision. I have no apology to restate my speech last March. Redecar West. 20 years ago, I visited Redecar West for a similar application. There were tips, mine shafts, and what's left of what nearly 200 years of industrial waste. At the time, only 4 councillors, including myself, wanted to approve the application. At the time, there were 33 councillors with the planning committee. The committee refused the applications. If we won, we'd have got rid of all that area, and we had a leisure park, including a new football ground. I really hope that we will approval for a new start for Redecar West. If you look at the town, and almost the whole valley is doing very well. We have the Redecar Leisure Park, Cyfarthfa Retail Park, Trago Mills, Cycling Park Wales, the Pendrabark Retail Park, and the Merthyr Industrial Park, which comes south to Trodderyw. In the south of the borough, you have Parc Taff Bargod from Friares to Lewis towards Billenog. On top of the mountain, at Lewis, you have Gethiger Merthyr Common. This starts from Gethiger, Derry, Bargod, Lewis, Bydlinog, Yfocryw, Dowlas, and Pengan Fian onward. In that area, you have red kites with over 200 horses who roam at leisure. This is an incredible panorama for the entire borough. I pushed tourism years ago. Somebody said to me, nobody will take the holidays in Lewis. He was wrong. because people take their holidays to the climbing centre in Park Tap Bargoed. We can make the whole borough as a tourist centre. Rhedycar West will be the catalyst to really move forward. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Bernie. Can I go to Councillor Lee Davis, please?
Thank you, Chair. Just going on what everybody else has said, as members will recall, I previously supported this application and I remain of that view tonight. This development aligns fully with our destination management plan, our economic ambitions, and continues to enjoy overwhelming public support. As chair of the Thriving Scrutiny, I've heard us talk about ambition for years, but tonight we have a chance to really deliver it. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to put Merthyr Tydfil on the global map, and I believe we should grasp it with both hands. So I'm happy to reaffirm my approval for this application. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, I go to Councillor Salmon.
Thank you, Chair. You'd be glad to make this really quick. As everyone else has said, in March last year, members of the Planning Committee voted and supported this application, and I'm sure it's going to be exactly the same tonight. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, as everybody else has mentioned. Now it's up to the applicant and everyone else involved in the application to get this done. Councillors have paved the way. It's up to you now.
Okay, thank you. Councillor John Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, on a personal note, what this development will bring to the County Borough of Merthyr Tydfil goes without saying. The economic benefits of our town will be substantial, and for all our local businesses, and the town will definitely benefit from the project if approved. The creation of skilled and unskilled jobs, training opportunities, increase of visitor footfall, etc., with the new dualling of the A465, the A470 network, along with our rail networks, will only help with the regeneration of our lovely town. We cannot allow a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity pass us by, and this will only benefit our future generations. For me, the positives outweigh the negatives for this application. Therefore, Chair, I cannot accept the officer's recommendations, and I will be voting to approve this tonight. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Scott Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Firstly, I just want to show my appreciation to the officers for obviously where we've got this back, where we had the decision from Welsh Gov in November, and they've managed to get this back to us so soon with a positive sort of, looking like a positive outcome. So I just want to give my appreciation to the officers for that. I also want to highlight that this categorically shows that we do absolutely listen to our community. Our decision last year absolutely put a stone behind that one for us, and I think tonight is going to highlight that factor. There's, you know, from a personal standpoint, when this sort of came about, it was something I desperately wanted to see happen, not just for myself, but obviously anybody who comes after me. And I think approving this tonight is going to be the right choice, and I sincerely hope that we all follow that suit.
Thank you. Have we got any more comments? Councillor Preston.
I'd just like to reiterate that I am in full support of this application for Merthyr Tydfil County Borough Council. Bedlinog has a climbing wall, which is very successful. So if Bedlinog can have a climbing wall, I'm sure Merthyr Tydfil can have Rhedycar West.
Thank you, Councillor Preston. Councillor Michelle Jones.
Thank you, Chair. Just would like to concur with my colleagues, my council colleagues this evening in thanking all the officers and Welsh Government for the support in the application, and just to say that I will be supporting Rhedycar West in line with the report that I've read and the recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Have we got any more councillors wishing to make comment? No, right. Before we go any further, I'm going to read out statement. Welsh Government have acknowledged the issues of conflict within national planning policy exist, and the original recommendation to the committee is maintained. Given that members have resolved not to accept the officer's recommendations, it is now before members to approve the application subject to the following conditions and heads of terms for a S106 agreement. Do I have a proposer?
Chair, I will happily propose this application.
And I second that.
Thank you.
Can I just clarify, members, before you do move to the vote, now it's been moved that it be approved subject to the conditions, that it is subject to the amendment to condition 24.
Yes.
Yeah.
Marvellous.
Okay. Thank you. Are we able to go ahead with the vote now, Gary?
Yeah, so it's been moved, it's been seconded, so could all members in favour of the recommendation to approve this permission subject to the 53 conditions and a suitable section 106 agreement, please raise their hands. Marvellous. And if they could lower those, please. If there's any member that does not approve of that recommendation, could they please raise their hand? And any member who wishes to abstain, please raise their hand. None. That's carried, Chair. It's approved subject to the conditions and a suitable section 106.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Good job.
Right. I'll leave people leave the room and then we'll go on.
We need Anna to return as well.
Yeah.
She's coming.
Yeah, Matthew's gone together. Yeah.
Okay.
She's in the room.
We'll just wait for her to get her things together. Then we'll move on. Are you sitting comfortably, Anna? Right, we'll go on to item number 7. P250165, former Hooverside Pentrabach Road, Pentrabach, to consider a report of the Director of Neighbourhood Services, and we go to the planning officer taking this.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take this forward. Just got a couple of slides to go through in a second as well. Okay, so this application, this relates primarily to the former Hoover factory site and includes an abandoned former car park and an area of land with a disused pumping station. So as you can see on the slides, the large red outline, that's the main Hoover site. The smaller section at the top there is the car park, and then the smaller section is where the old pumping station is. Overall, the site covers an area of approximately 15.93 hectares. The site sits within a fairly prominent location along Merthyr Road, opposite Pentrabach Triangle Business Park, and adjacent to the main railway line and River Taff to the west. Outline planning permission is sought for the comprehensive redevelopment of the former Hoover site to create a new neighbourhood. This would accommodate 441 new homes, 1.5 hectares of employment land, a community hub to accommodate local shops, services and facilities, as well as the potential to incorporate a community heat hub and safeguard land for a future metro station. All matters relating to the layout, scale, landscape and appearance of the development have been reserved for future consideration, although the means of access to serve the residential elements of the development on the Hoover site does form part of this application. The development would be capable of accommodating a mixture of house types of various sizes. Largely, this would consist of 2-storey dwellings with scope to include 3- and 4-storey homes and flats. There would also be flexibility within the community hub and employment site to accommodate various configurations of new buildings and units to support the employment element. Additionally, across the site, a network of open spaces and an active travel route would be provided to support recreation, sustainable drainage features and ecological enhancements. It is noted that the initial phase of the development would involve the demolition of the existing industrial buildings and the remediation of the site to prepare it the ground for development. The residential element would likely come forward first, and in subsequent phases the community hub and employment areas would then be delivered. Following the consultation exercise, it should be noted that no objections were raised by either the internal or external consultees. This is subject to various conditions being imposed to ensure the appropriate development of the site. As a result of the publicity exercise, a total of 5 representations were received, of which points were raised both in support of the development in principle, but also some concerns were highlighted. These are summarised in the report and generally include concerns to do with the preservation of the Hoover building facade, concerns with the provision of a new railway station, impact on the local schools, additional traffic, disruption in the area and the ecological value of the site. The planning considerations section of the report provides a detailed assessment of the merits of the development. To summarise, the site is identified in the local development plan as the Hoover Strategic Regeneration Site to facilitate a major mixed-use development. It would have a significant contribution towards the provision of new housing and would equally make a significant contribution to the provision of affordable housing. The development would also support economic development with the delivery of employment sites within a sustainable location. As such, the principle of the development is acceptable. Whilst the full design of the development is not presented at this stage, an indicative master plan, which I'll go through on the slides, has been provided, which adequately illustrates how the site could be developed. It has also been demonstrated that a site could appropriately accommodate a mixed-use development that integrates well with the surrounding area. There would be capacity to provide good urban design with interesting environments and that embrace placemaking and support a healthy environment. Careful considerations be given to the ecological value of the site. Much of the features of interest are situated along the boundaries, which would largely be retained. Green infrastructure would also be introduced in the detailed design to provide new features of ecological and biodiversity interest, which would include a series of open spaces and wildlife corridors, particularly alongside the active travel route. Highway assessments have been provided to demonstrate the potential impact of the development, bearing in mind the current industrial use of the site. Whilst traffic movements would increase in comparison to the present situation, it has been demonstrated that the impact of the development would not differ greatly to that of the industrial use of the site should it be operating as normal. Both the head of the Engineering and Highways and the Welsh Government Highways Division have raised no highway safety concerns, and it's been demonstrated that the highway network has sufficient capacity to accommodate the development. To conclude, the development of a significant strategic regeneration site would clearly have a positive impact on the local area and the wider objectives for the county borough. As the largest housing allocation within the local development plan, it would help to deliver a considerable number of much needed new homes. The redevelopment of the former industrial land would help to regenerate the area with the creation of a new vibrant neighbourhood, along with new local services and employment opportunities. The development would provide better connectivity to the surrounding area with access to new open spaces, encouragement of active travel and enhancements to the natural environment to help create a healthy place to live. Accordingly, it's recommended in the report that the application be approved, subject to the conditions set out on page 126 to 130. And just to go through some of the slides then. So as I say, this is the extent of the application site. To give a little bit of context, you've got, as most of you are probably quite familiar with, you've got Pentre Bark Retail and Business Park. You've got the new Dragon Park housing scheme across the way, and then obviously you've got the main residential areas of Pentre Bark and Abercanid to the south. So this is the indicative I suppose, master plan for how the site could be developed. As I said, I'll show some slides of the access details itself, but essentially there's 2 points of access into the Hoover site. There's one in the northern section and one in the southern section. This one is fairly close to the existing point of access. You can see that the employment site is located at the top, and you've got the pump station here, which could accommodate potentially the heat hub. That would need to be reviewed further as part of an energy strategy with the reserved matters. The orange area here, this is the area that's been identified as the potential location for the community hub, which could include things like a community, I guess like a community hall, along with shops and services. There would be an opportunity then to formulate a more formal point of access across, linking to the retail park and beyond to things like the Trevithick Trail. You've got the existing train station, Pentrabath train station at the southern end, and then essentially along the western boundary of the site, all the way up to the top where the bridge to Abercanad is. This would be the potential location for the active travel route. There's a lot of ecological value along this area as well, so combining that along with the active travel and providing a good link through the site would be of some benefit. The actual arrangement of the houses within the site, that would be something that we would review further as part of the reserve matters. What they've set out is principally there would be a central road through the middle of the site linking the 2 access points, and then you would have a series of, I guess you might say, smaller highways then linking off to, to form smaller streets. At the top here, there is an area which was sort of, I guess you could say, safeguarded for a potential metro station, just to confirm that the metro station itself is not part of the application. It's just an element, a strategic element that's been taken into consideration as part of the allocation of the site itself, and is being sort of taken into consideration how the site could be developed. This would probably be more for Transport for Wales to deliver that, and whether they want to or not. I know there was concerns about the loss of the train station, this scheme is not considering whether that station should remain or not, and whether this station should come forward, but it's safeguarded as an area where it could be provided should it be delivered in the future. Failure for that to be delivered, then obviously you'd probably look for some sort of landscaping to be finalised there. So within the design access statement, they've tried to set out their sort of design approach, their principles of how the site could be developed. This is very conceptual of some of the things that they're trying to achieve on the site. So that this is just, illustrative of, how you might try to incorporate appropriate landscaping within the street environments to enhance ecology and incorporate sustainable drainage. There's opportunity to create a mixture of different house types which cater for a range of families and housing tenures and needs. And obviously looking at how we can create some open space within the site and link that into, which wouldn't just be for the benefit of the residents, it would be for the communities that surround it as well. As I mentioned, there's 2 points of access into the site which form part of the decision. We've got the access at the northern end of the site. This would be a totally new point of entry. There's not much to say about it other than these are designed to be of to adoptable highway standards with appropriate junctions and visibility along the main Merthyr Road, and you can see the green areas there where you would have sustainable drainage, planting and things like that all incorporated. And similarly on the right hand side we've got the southern access, At the moment, you can just about make out underneath. This here is roughly where the existing access is into the site. So the proposed access is just slightly further down, and you would have a crossing point here leading into the Pentrabark the highway adjacent to the Pentrabark car park. There's already a formal point of access which people quite often use there. And then finally, just a few photos. I'm sure you're all familiar. This is the front facade of the Hoover building. We've had some representations about retaining that. Unfortunately, it's not a listed building, so it doesn't have any statutory protection, and it is difficult to retain that, but we have tried to seek compensation for it through the application. HENEB, formerly GGAT, Glamorgan Gwenc Archaeological Trust, they've asked for a scheme to record that as a matter of record, and then as part of the final design, we've asked for the heritage strategy to be put forward to look at whether elements of the building could be retained and how the heritage interpretation could be incorporated perhaps into the landscaping and public spaces. The building, the photo to the top right and the bottom left, that's just to you can't necessarily always see it from the main road, but you can see that the existing buildings within the site are in a fairly poor condition. I think that might even be asbestos across the top, so the rest of the building itself is not really of much value. The smaller photos on the bottom, just to show you the interface the site currently has with the railway line. So the top illustration there is that at the southern end of the site where the levels are a little bit lower, so there is an embankment and some retaining works there, and then you've got the fence line at the top, which sort of marks off the boundary to the railway environment. And similarly on the bottom there, where the levels are slightly higher, you can see you've got the boundary of the site again, but it's a bit elevated, and then you've got intervening strip before you hit the railway line at a slightly lower level. The top two photos, just to give you an impression of what we've got. Obviously, at the bottom end of the site is the cricket and bowls, I think, green. Some of this area would be retained. Some of the grass in it area could be retained as part of the landscaping, and would be utilised, I think, as part of the sustainable drainage solution. But some of this area would be lost to the housing development. The bottom photo just gives you impression of the main access into the site. As I say, the proposed access is just a little short of where it currently is. The northern access would be somewhere coming in just after these traffic lights, roughly in the middle of the photo there. So that would be the new point. You can see it some distance away from the northern roundabout as well. To the bottom photo, that's the existing northern access, vehicular access. That area would be redeveloped as part of the residential scheme, and the active travel route would essentially come out at this end of the site. And as part of the proposal, there would be works towards to provide a suitable pedestrian crossing by the bridge. And then finally, the photo above is of the abandoned car park. Is in a pretty bad state at the moment, very overgrown, and a lot of the tarmac has started to deteriorate. So the redevelopment of that would be an improvement. And just to give you an impression, the bottom photo is of the River Taff, and you can see that there's a fair bit of vegetation then before you hit the railway line, and just in the background is as it stands now, the Hoover building. So just give you an impression of context. I think that's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, David. I'll just ask Michelle Jones why she has a hand up, because we'll take questions later on, but is this something you need to say, Michelle?
No, it's for a question. Sorry, Jay, I'm a briga.
Okay, can you just lower your hand? We'll take in your question when we come to questions. Thank you. We come to the public speaking element of this application now, and I believe it's Meryl Lewis.
Hello, good evening. Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Okay, bear with me.
I'll just remove the sharing for now.
Oh, there we are.
Thank you. Welcome to the committee. We'll give you 5 minutes to say what you have to say, but
Okay.
I'll also give you an opportunity to explain who you are and what's your stance on the proposal.
Okay, thank you. So good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Committee. My name is Meryl Lewis and I'm from Walters Land Limited, the applicant for the application that's being considered by today's Planning Committee. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak in relation to this outline planning application for the redevelopment of the former Hoover site. As David has quite rightly summarised, the site is a prominent and strategically important brownfield site within the county borough, and the outline proposals relate to its redevelopment for up to 441 new homes, 1.5 hectares of employment land, a community hub, community heat hub, a metro station and transport hub. And all this will be delivered within a network of open spaces, including parkland, active travel routes, areas for informal recreation and SUDS attenuation features. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank council officers, particularly Craig Watkins, who have worked collaboratively with us during the pre-application stage of this process to organise and attend meetings with all the key departments to support the development of the outline proposals. All this work has resulted in positive consultation responses from consultees during the determination of the application and a positive recommendation to this committee. Thank you. Since operations ceased in 2009, the Hoover site has been used for storage and distribution only. The majority of the site, as you could see from the photos, are disused and in a poor state of repair. Aspirations to redevelop this strategically important regeneration site have been in place for a number of years, the site forming part of the allocated Hoover Strategic Regeneration Area in the adopted local development plan. Today we seek approval for the overarching principles of this development, and we believe the proposals are in line with both local planning policies and the broader goals for sustainable growth in the area. The strategic importance of this site is supported by its allocation under Policy SW6 of the LDP as the Hoover Strategic Regeneration Area to facilitate major mixed-use redevelopment, comprising all aspects of the scheme that we are proposing by this outline planning application. As such, the proposals align with local planning objectives. National planning objectives are realised through prioritising brownfield regeneration, minimising urban sprawl and making efficient use of land that has already been developed, while bringing back into use a redundant site. Through the site's redevelopment, there is the opportunity to deliver a sustainable new neighbourhood, providing a number of much-needed new homes, including affordable housing. The green and blue network of open space proposed ensures a net benefit to biodiversity, enhancing and strengthening green corridors that serve a number of purposes, including safeguarding ecological environments, whilst also creating opportunities to improve active travel links along key parts of the site. In doing so, the redevelopment of the site opens up the opportunity to create better connectivity to the surrounding area. The outline application proposals aim to create a vibrant new neighbourhood that delivers on the requirements of Policy SW6, whilst also offering opportunities to enhance the natural environment and create a healthy place to live. To recognise the historic value of the site and the part it has played in the community for many years, opportunities will be explored through the place-making approach to the development. This is secured by way of proposed conditions, a programme of historic recording, and a heritage strategy to explore the reuse retention of features that can be incorporated into the landscape, public spaces, and design of buildings. Redevelopment of the site also brings with it Economic benefits. The HBF provides a housing calculator that can be used to calculate the economic benefits of house building. The headlines are supporting the employment of more than 1,500 people, providing some 20 apprentices, graduates or trainees, increasing open space, community sport, leisure spending by some 400,000, and generating approximately 12 million in tax revenue, including some 1 million in council tax revenue. And this relates only to the housing part and does not include the many other elements of the projects that will bring about social economic benefits. The project can play an important part in improving the economic prosperity of the local community. In addition, the required demolition and ground remediation works on this particular project would be undertaken by a locally based civil engineering company whose employees are mainly from this part of South Wales. As concluded by the committee report, the redevelopment of the Hoover site, a significant strategic regeneration site and the largest housing allocation within the LDP, would clearly have a positive impact on the local area and the wider objectives of local and national policy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll take questions for the applicant from the committee members, but for clarity only.
Just one question for me, Chair.
Jones?
Refers to 441 units of accommodation in the report. And sometimes words are very important, but Mary Lewis said up to 441. So is there a possibility that the number of units being built there is likely to be less than 441?
We have done a capacity exercise looking at what the number of houses that could be delivered on site. The maximum that could be delivered is 441. There is potential for it to be less, but the opportunity is to maximise the delivery of housing on the site. So our hope is to be able to achieve that number.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any more questions on clarity to the applicant, please? Councillor Anna.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair. You touched upon obviously the heritage strategy that would need to be put in place if this progressed into the conditions. Can you clarify whether as part of that you would look to undertake further engagement with the local community, as so much of the history of the site is connected to not just the building but also the community that worked within the site?
So through the condition, there would be consultation on the discharge of that condition. We could speak with the local council to see if there would be the opportunity through that process to be able to discuss what proposals we're looking at for the ability to be able to reuse the heritage potential. What we are looking at is the Hoover at the moment is, you know, the Hoover letters on the Art Deco building, whether there's potential to be retaining them within a certain part of the site through public art, and then the opportunity to be able to replicate the design of the Art Deco building, potentially in part of the commercial aspect of the community use area that's been suggested, that some of the community buildings could be replicating that design of the building. So it's through, prior to demolition, we would be looking at what parts of the site and what aspects of the development, the existing development, could be retained and are in suitable use to be able to reuse. And I think that's an important part of retaining the history of the site.
Thank you. Have we any other questions for clarity, please? No, thank you. We'll now go on to local elected members that do not sit on the planning committee. So, Councillor Andrew Barry, have you anything to say?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. This authority has been chasing this site for development for an infinitely long time. We were in danger at one point of being hamstrung by previous owners and in danger of the asset just being a number on a balance sheet, stuck over the remediation works of the site, which were considerable. To see the applicant come along and offer this application, it's like London buses, isn't it? Nothing for years, and 2 top drawer applications in one sitting. It's unbelievable. And the Hoover site, you know, it stirs many emotions in people. Friendships were born there, marriages, families sprung up from it. The achievements of the sportsmen and women that came from Hoover as well. Many sort of emotions, and I can only thank Meryl for and her company for bringing this application. There was a time when developers wouldn't look at Merthyr in terms of new housing, but the reality of the world today is one of agile working, remote working. You can live anywhere and be working these days with the development of AI. And what better place than a house at the Hoover site? A470 to the M4, A46, the slip road as we know it, to the A465, newly refurbished, and the M5. Its own rail link, its own metro link, potentially into the future. At the foot of the beacons, Bike Park Wales, Brecon Mountain Railway, the zip wire over at Dricos. What's not to like, you know? The issue really for me is that, you know, we have an opportunity here of a game changer of a development, a housing development, which, you know, in the first instance would bring jobs, apprenticeships, training, as has been outlined. And the possibilities of, you know, existing a new business, as I said on the previous application, supply chains created, again, spinning the economy, creating growth, from the remediation to the groundworks, to the first fix, second fix, to the, you know, the landscaping, and it goes on and on. Immediate jobs, because the work starts immediately. And the only thing I would say, we needed at pace. You know, I mean, in terms of any development coming to Merthyr now, with the job that was done on the A465, an absolutely outstanding piece of civil engineering, and the quality of the work and the pace that it was delivered. You know, the bar's been set really high in Merthyr in terms of what we now expect from developments. And I'm sure that Walter's bringing this application will match all expectations. It brings again for us an opportunity to lift us out of the deprived state that we've been used to for the last 30 years. And, you know, I welcome this application. It is a tremendous opportunity. It's a game-changing opportunity for people to come live, work and play in Merthyr for many years to come. And I welcome it, and I urge Planning Committee to approve, and for the Planning Committee and the people of Merthyr to get behind it, because it's a tremendous opportunity along with the previous application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. I call on Councillor Gareth Lewis. Do you wish to make a statement, Gareth? I'll take that as a no. I'll go on to planning officers. Have you got any closing comments?
Sorry, Chair, only just to come in very quickly and thank Meryl for her kind words there, but also just to make clear that David Cross also deserves a significant amount of thanks for actually dealing and processing with the application and getting the report to committee as promptly as he has.
Thank you, Craig. So I'll go on to questions from the committee members. And Michelle Jones, you were the first one to ask.
Thank you, Chair. Whilst I support the application and I fully support more houses, which we definitely need in Merthyr, I do have some concerns about the removal of the cricket pitch, which for many decades has seen many players and teams from all over Wales enjoy success and enjoyment. Once this pitch is gone, it will be hard to replace. finding new land that meets the cricket standards is going to be difficult due to space, noise and planning constraints. So I've got a couple of questions. Obviously, I appreciate that this hasn't been in use since the land was sold, but what evidence and research has been done to demonstrate that the cricket pitch is surplus to requirements? Have the relevant cricket boards been consulted? How does the proposals comply with the national and local planning policy on the protection of playing fields? And what robust evidence proves this cricket pitch is genuinely surplus to community use? Thank you, Chair.
Well, there was a few points in that question. I guess, well, just to start on the consultation side of it, I don't think the cricket club was consulted directly, but obviously it was consulted through the normal process with letters, site notices and press notices. So any sort of comments from them would have been welcomed through that process as per usual. In terms of the loss of the field, I mean, the site itself, as part of the LDP process, it was allocated as a strategic regeneration site. That included the cricket field and bowls green there. I guess on the basis that it's not been in use for some time, I mean, that may not say it's if it was allowed to be reused, that it could be reused, but obviously it's difficult to incorporate that as part of the wider regeneration of the site, which was to obviously accommodate quite a number of houses. It's difficult to, as I say, because whilst that element is not being retained, the scheme itself does have the capacity to accommodate a number of alternative recreation spaces, both for informal and formal, to be included in a number of parts of the site. And that wouldn't be limited, as I say, to just the residents of the site. That could be utilised also by the other sort of residential communities where there would be improved connectivity with the active travel routes. So the benefits of having a number of recreational spaces, the benefits of having an active travel route, and all the other benefits with the development in terms of housing and employment opportunity, that has to be weighed against the loss of the community facility.
Yeah, if I just come in quickly to add, in terms of the sort of planning policy framework in relation to open space, the playing field at Hoovers isn't protected open space in the LDP. As it's private land, the approach that was generally taken was that private land wouldn't be protected open space in the plan, so it doesn't get the same level of protection that some other areas of land do. But I think the approach that we tried to take was that because of the sort of shape essentially of a cricket field and the sort of the single large block required, would have too much of an impact on being able to deliver a certain amount of housing on there. The approach that was taken when we were preparing the LDP was that we would look to mitigate for that by delivering an equivalent area of open space throughout the site as a whole. I think that's been achieved with this layout, and I think it's in line with policy SW6, the plan, where I think there's a minimum of 1.79 hectares of area of open space that needs to be created, which is broadly in line with the sort of minimum area that you'd need for a cricket field. So that's the approach that's been taken with the site.
Thank you. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Right, okay. I'll go to Councillor Anna Williams-Price.
Thank you. Firstly, can I just seek clarity, and you addressed it slightly in your introduction, David, around the land reserved for potential future metro station. But just for clarity, at this stage, there's no decision being made on whether any future station would be at that site, and similarly, any decision on amendments to the current Pentre Bark site as is, and that would be the decision solely for Transport for Wales.
Yeah, so that's not part of this proposal. So the land for the metro is just reserved effectively or incorporated as where that could be provided potentially within the site. But the application itself is not proposing to remove the existing station or to actually build out the new station. So that would be entirely for Transport for Wales to determine. That's probably something that they would have to deliver, and they would have to have the funding and the will to do it. But obviously, when we're looking at these strategic sites, we've got to take into consideration those kind of options that may come forward in the future. If a metro station was provided, I think one of the reasons for it being considered up there was because they could provide a platform on either side of the railway line, and they would need, there's certain requirements to, you know, in terms of having a straight section of the railway line to have that, and it wouldn't be able to be accommodated at the southern end. If that metro did come forward in the future, that's not to say that the existing Pentra station couldn't be retained as well. So it could be that there's two stations introduced. But as I say, that's not before us as part of this application.
Thank you. And moving on to particularly some of the heritage elements outlined in this application. I note the proposed condition for a heritage strategy to be provided, and also the requirement for retention and storage of the original features are considered as part of the CEMP. So can I see clarity that this plan for retention and storage of original features will need to be agreed before any demolition of those areas of the site?
Yeah, so there's two kind of approaches. Initially, it's before any demolition takes place, we want to review what elements of the building could reasonably be retained and perhaps incorporated in the proposed development. The building itself, apart from the front facade, the rest of the building is not in particularly good condition. And as I said before, it's not really possible to retain the facade. Although as part, before the demolition works takes place, HENEB have asked for a photographic, I think it's largely photographic, record of the building to be taken place so that that can be recorded as a matter of record. It's sort of been suggested that the Hoover sign itself, which is sort of a bit of a feature of the building, whether that could be retained, and is it in a condition that could either be perhaps incorporated on a building within the community hub, or could it be incorporated elsewhere in the site as an element of public art, perhaps along the active travel route. So some of those options still need to be explored. So initially we want to review how much of the building can be retained and be reused. And then as part of the detailed scheme, then we would want a heritage strategy then setting out how these things can be incorporated into the final design.
Thanks, because supplementary to that was essentially, could you provide more detail on what information would need to be seen in that heritage strategy in order to satisfy the condition as proposed?
Well, the heritage strategy would need to look at, well, firstly, what elements of the building can be retained, and then it would be looking at how that can be incorporated to reflect the history of the site. So that there may be other opportunities to incorporate public art or features elsewhere within the open spaces. It's not limited to necessarily just the elements of the building that could be retained.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it, right? We go to Clive.
Right, thank you, Chair. One or two of the questions I had down here have been asked. But if I take you to page 105, and that's the internal consultees, and you look at the Director of Education's comments, it says in relation to this application, no objection, plans are being prepared to realign school places / catchment areas. Now, when this topic came up in a council meeting, it's a few years ago now, and we were then talking about the possibility of having up to 441 units of accommodation. At that time, I researched as to the capacity in Abercarreg School, Trotteroo School, and Cadrow. And at that time, all three were virtually full to capacity. So if it is going to be 441 properties there, even in this day and age, there's going to be a lot of children there. I'm intrigued to ascertain as to the availability of primary schools for the children there.
Yeah, but I'll come in and answer that one there, because the work looking at this issue was sort of undertaken as part of preparing the LDP and sort of allocating this site as a strategic site in advance of the application as well. But I think essentially what's happened is the situation in terms of the primary schools you mentioned has changed, and the projections for Abercarned in particular show the roles starting to decline over the next few years. And I think there's also been changes such as the new 3 to 16 faith school, which opens up capacity for Cadraw to potentially extend into St Mary's and create extra primary space there. And I think what also needs to be realised as well is that even though there's 400 houses being delivered, you don't get all of those houses being occupied at the same point in time by children. So the build out of the houses is likely to take between 5 and 10 years. So things will be staggered. And I think that's where there is the comfort, there is capacity between Abercarned, between a potentially expanded Cadraw, and then with some tweaks to the catchment area boundaries as well.
So, Chair, the current thinking is there's not going to be any problems in relation to capacity in the closest schools, which in my view would be Abercarned, Trotterhew and Cadraw.
That's correct, yeah.
Right. If you take you to page 115, and it's the last bottom paragraph, page 115, it talks there about the design and access statements set out some consideration of how the built form and appearance of the dwellings and commercial buildings might be developed. The target is to have an average of 35 to 40 dwellings per hectare, with the height of the buildings largely being 2-storey. I'm intrigued to find out, because we're talking about up to 441, whether for the site, part of the site that's allocated for houses, whether 441 is far too many properties. Is that, in your opinion, you're talking about 441, that figure has been mentioned?
In the first instance, I think the site would have been reviewed in terms of its capacity as part of the local development plan allocation, and I think in that it suggested 440, so one over that, I suppose. It's 441 residential units, so that can take form in many different ways. As I mentioned earlier, that some of the development includes flats as well as houses, although I think majoritively it would be houses. There's, as part of the initial feasibility studies that the agent would have done, is to review whether that is achievable. The plan I illustrated earlier gives an impression of how that might look. But obviously, when it comes to the detailed design, which is something that would be reviewed at the reserved matters, then that would, determine exactly how many houses would be appropriate. Bearing in mind, obviously, there's a need to incorporate as much public open space. But I would say, on the face of it, that it seems quite reasonable that could be achieved.
Yes, which is to provide a bit of context in terms of that density of 35 to 45 dwellings. On your net developable area where you're actually building the houses, it's a very similar density to the scheme that was approved the other side of the river at Dragon Park. So in terms of being able to achieve it, it is achievable with a sort of mixture of detached dwellings, semi-detached, small terraces and flats.
Including the amount of spaces that you're talking
Yeah,
about.
including the amount of open space and then the area for the community hub as well, yeah.
Okay, well, we look forward to the detailed application, see what that contains. On page 101, on the third paragraph down, this refers to the former car park, sits to the north of the Triangle Business Park and northeast of the Hoover factory. This is a test of memory for me. I thought there was a pylon on that car parking area. Am I right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So, utilization of what going there, I think we talk about commercial use. Is that right?
Yeah.
They've taken into account the fact that there's a really big pylon smack on the site.
Yeah, I think that's probably part of the reason why it was originally allocated for specifically for employment uses rather than residential. Is there is a bit more, there's a bit more scope to provide a sort of employment facility on that site, given its constraints.
Right, and this has been asked by Councillor Alan Williams-Price. The facade, you know, the sign, the Hoover sign that you can see as you approach it. I think that's been said that it's difficult because it's is it locally listed as such?
It's not locally listed, and it's not. I don't think it's locally listed, but it's not statutory protected, so it's not a listed building where there would be special measures to protect it.
Yeah. So if it's not listed in any shape or form, there's a problem there. For that to remain, because there's been representations from various individuals for that to remain. So the chances of that remaining, am I right, is pretty remote.
I want to say that somewhere in the back of my head, it was mentioned that this had come up some time ago, and I think CADU may have looked at it some time ago, but it was never brought forward as a listed building. So, but obviously, if anybody wanted it to be listed, it would be CADU that would be the person responsible for doing so.
Yeah, I believe it was. I believe it might have been through Merthyr Tydford Heritage Trust, maybe 10 sort of 15 years ago, that they did write to CADU to consider listing it. But I think part of the reason why it wasn't taken forward is that my understanding is that the actual sort of curved frontage above the door and where the letters are isn't the original brickwork in any case.
Okay.
And I think the judgment that sort of we've come to is that with the layout that's being proposed, it would be extremely difficult to retain it in situ on the community hub building, but it could relatively easily be replicated close by, again, to reflect the history of the site.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks. Lee, I'll come to you in a minute, but Scott wanted to ask a supplemental on education. Is that okay with you? Yeah, okay.
Cheers, Lee. Yeah, my question is kind of supplementary to Clive's obviously catchment area question in respect of obviously the schools there. What about the factoring of obviously the Welsh language schools as well? Because you are going to anticipate potentially having Welsh language first families in there as well. And I know that capacities in both of our Welsh language schools at the moment, at the very least, are quite stretched. I know we're anticipating a new Welsh language medium school. Are we confident in the fact that that's going to be able to satisfy then what we may get as Welsh language speakers in this new development, with ongoing developments in the borough already?
Yeah, I think it's a similar position to the English medium primary schools, in that between whilst there are capacity issues at present and the existing Welsh schools are full, as time moves on over the build programme and people moving into the site having children of school age, there will be capacity with the current Welsh schools and hopefully a third Welsh primary as well.
Thank you. Cheers, Greg.
Thank you, Lee. I'll take a question from you now.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Well, Scott and Clive asked some of the question I was going to ask. I do support the application, but I do have concerns about existing local infrastructure, particularly schools. But have the education and health bodies been consulted on the application? Because as well as schools, local GPs, surgeries, dentists, healthcare services, they're already stretched to the max. Have these been consulted? And, and what mechanisms or safeguards are you putting in place if this impacts on a local community?
In terms of education, we did consult, and the Director of Education indicated there was no particular objection. As I say, that was on the basis that there are already measures being reviewed to deal with capacity. As to doctors and surgeries, I don't think we've consulted them directly, but as a strategic site, this would have been taken into consideration as part of the LDP allocation. I don't know if you want to add on to that, Craig?
Yes, the health board were involved throughout the preparation of the LDP and didn't raise any concerns with the overall level of housing growth being proposed in Merthyr and any specific individual sites. The way they operate is a little bit sort of reactively, I suppose, whereas like we are sort of telling them, like, this is the strategy for a plan, we're looking to build these 2,000 houses over 15 years. Where do you think the new GP surgery should go? They will look at it. Well, actually, the trend-based scenario. So without your LDP, your population is only going to go by this much. We will only really look at providing new facilities when they've got that certainty that the population is going to increase. So I said, if this gets permission, I'd imagine that will act as a bit of a catalyst to the health board to reconsider whether new facilities will be needed.
Okay, thanks both. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Have we any further questions from committee members? I'll take that as a no. Have we got any comments from committee members? As well, Anna Williams-Price.
Thank you, Chair. Just to sum up for me as local ward member, this application represents a significant change for the ward and also for the town. And as with any major development, there are both opportunities and challenges to consider. And the Hoover site has a long and important history within the town, and its redevelopment inevitably raises questions about what we gain and also what we lose. In particular, the potential for loss of sports grounds and two locally listed heritage assets, namely the Hoover frontage and the gatehouse, is something that many in the community feel strongly about. And it's important that this is acknowledged. There are wider implications for infrastructure and how this development will affect transport services and the overall capacity of the area, which obviously been addressed during the debate. And these are not small considerations and will shape how well this development works if it was approved. Such changes can be unsettling, but also offer a chance for renewal. And if this application is approved, the council and communities, both new and established, and most importantly the applicant, will share responsibility for making this a success. We must strike the right balance between respecting our heritage and embracing progress, ensuring that the future we build reflects the values, identities and needs of our town. And on balance, I'm satisfied the conditions proposed should address these concerns as matters progressed, and I am content to support the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Clive Jones.
Yes, Chair, I support this as an outline application. I think there's been concerns for some years as to whether development was going to take place here, as been expressed earlier on, that it's like waiting for a bus and more than one comes along. This is another significant, really significant application. I think we all fully support new accommodation being built. It's all on the flat there. That's another thing. We've got valleys either side of us. It's close to the A470, the dual carriageway. On the other side, it's close to the town centre. It's, from what I've seen of it, it's like a new village being built there. So I think it'll be interesting when it comes to the detailed planning application as to exactly what's in there. But this is on top of the application we've approved for the new snow centre. It's really unbelievable in my opinion, that we've got this application before us. I really think this is added to other developments and other things going on throughout the county borough. I used to work in Cardiff many years ago, and I used to say to most of the staff there, I don't know why you're living in Cardiff, because just a few boroughs up the road there, you can purchase houses within a short distance of a number of facilities, including the Brecon Beacons National Park. So for me, this is progress, and I look forward, as I said, to the detailed application coming for us, Chair.
Thank you. Any further comments? Take that as a no. Can I have a proposal for the application then, please?
I move, Chair.
Second, Chair.
Thank you. It's been moved in second. Geraint, we go into the vote?
Okay. Yep. So could all members in favour, in agreement with officers' recommendations, then please raise their hands. 2, 3, 4. Thanks. Okay. If you could lower these, please. Could any member not in agreement with officers' recommendation, please raise their hand. Okay. And any member wishing to abstain, please raise their hand. Okay. Thanks. That's carried, Chair.
Thanks very much, Geraint. Item 8 is an information report. So is item 9. I don't have any other business deemed urgent by the chair. So thank you all for attending, and good night.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. Good night, all.
Thank you.
Good night, all.
Good night all.